What is the return on investment of leading with vulnerability? And is there a way that organizations can measure it?
Sure. So there are, I think, two ways that we can look at this. Number one is the personal ROI, and then there's the business ROI. The personal ROI, I have this story in the book, which I won't get into the whole story, but basically, it's this idea, a concept in psychology called mismatch theory. And so there used to be a time, and a lot of people listening and watching this will remember this, where command and control, hierarchy, not showing emotion, not talking about your mistakes or failures was a good thing. This is just what was accepted in the workplace. In fact, you'll remember that Fortune used to run a series of magazines called America's Toughest Bosses or the World's Toughest Bosses. And it was a badge of honor to be on the cover of this magazine. And it was a badge of honor to work for this kind of a CEO, right? The days of Jack Welch, like it was accepted to be the celebrity CEO, to scream, to yell. Like this is what the business environment was like. And I talked to a lot of CEOs who told me, even in business school, that's what they were taught. They were taught to model the Jack Welches. And again, that was accepted in the business environment. And this concept of mismatch theory states that behaviors and attributes that were once beneficial to you become detrimental to you when your environment suddenly changes. And that's exactly what happened to us. Our environment has suddenly changed over the past few years. You can look at it over the past 10 plus years, but especially even over the past 3 to 5 years post pandemic, our environment has suddenly changed. And so you as an individual, as a leader, have a choice. Are you going to adapt to the environment that we're a part of, where we talk about employee experience and putting people first and well-being and those kinds of concepts? Are you going to adapt to lead in that kind of a world? Or are you going to stick to the old way of leading and hope that nobody notices? And my hope is that even just for your career success, for your growth, for your development, you will adapt. That's the ROI for you. But then there's also the ROI from a business perspective. So again, I mentioned that we surveyed 14,000 employees. We looked at organizations all over the world. We interviewed CEOs. And so there's anecdotal and quantitative data on this as well. So some of the quantitative data, managers who regularly display vulnerability when appropriate are almost twice as likely to develop novel ideas in their teams, aka innovation. Employees who work for these types of managers are almost 3 times as more likely to be vulnerable to themselves at work. They're more than 5 times as likely to trust their leaders. And inside of organizations where leaders display vulnerability always when appropriate, those types of organizations, the leaders who work there have a much higher perception of having high quality leaders. And so what I mean by that is inside of organizations where leaders never, not at all, or rarely display vulnerability, 56% of those leaders are viewed as high quality. So half, almost like a coin flip. In organizations where leaders always display vulnerability when appropriate, 86% of those leaders are viewed as high quality, right? That's almost 90%. So we're talking about a 30% gap in terms of the perception of high quality of leadership. That's very significant. And the numbers go on and on. We also looked at the ability to manage remote teams, the ability to create productivity and engagement. So across the board, when you lead with vulnerability, and again, competence and connection, there is a significant ROI, not just to you as an individual, but also to your team, to your company as a whole. And I also have stories in the book from CEOs who've explained that clearly just from the things that they have observed in terms of innovation and engagement and productivity.